For generations, the US-Canada border has stood as a powerful symbol of peace and cooperation. It's a testament to a long-standing friendship, a shared history, and mutual respect between two nations. It's often referred to as the world's longest undefended boundary, a border that stretches for thousands of miles largely unmarked and open. This has fostered a sense of trust and interconnectedness, but on July 11, 2025, something unprecedented happens. That long-held peace is shattered seemingly overnight. Canada has made the drastic decision to close its land borders. Specifically, the closure targets all non-essential American transit heading to Alaska, a move with significant ramifications. This effectively severs a vital land link between the lower 48 states and Alaska, creating a logistical and economic nightmare. This isn't a temporary inconvenience caused by a weather closure or a routine traffic jam. It's a deliberate and calculated political act, signaling a major shift in the relationship between the two countries. The sudden move has stranded thousands of travelers, leaving them in limbo and uncertainty. It has also severely disrupted vital supply chains, impacting businesses and consumers alike. The situation has ignited fierce rhetoric from President Trump, who is now back in office and ready to respond. He's addressing the nation from the White House, promising swift action. The Alaska Highway, once a celebrated symbol of international cooperation and shared infrastructure, is now a tense flashpoint in a rapidly escalating crisis. This dramatic event is the culmination of years of simmering disputes and unresolved tensions over trade practices, environmental regulations, and competing claims of Arctic sovereignty. These long-standing disagreements have finally erupted into a full-blown diplomatic crisis. The border closure challenges the very foundation of US-Canada relations, shaking the stability of a partnership that has endured for decades. It's far more than a mere inconvenience for travelers and businesses. It's a fundamental test of national sovereignty and the right to control one's borders. It raises serious questions about border security and overall national security for both nations. And ultimately, it puts the future of North American cooperation and regional alliances at stake. The world is watching with bated breath as these two long-standing allies face off over access to Alaska and the principles at stake. The implications of this crisis are enormous and far-reaching. The effects will be felt from families in Seattle planning summer vacations, all the way to the intricate workings of global markets. The story is still rapidly unfolding, with new developments emerging every hour. But one thing is certain, the ripple effects of this crisis will be felt for many years to come, reshaping the geopolitical landscape. The critical question now is, how did it come to this point? What were the underlying causes and missteps that led to such a drastic measure? And perhaps even more importantly, what happens next? What are the potential resolutions, and what will the future hold for US-Canada relations? Ottawa's announcement was swift, catching many by surprise. The news spread rapidly, creating ripples of concern and speculation across North America and beyond. Effective immediately, all American transit to Alaska is halted. The border, once a symbol of friendly relations, was now a stark line in the sand. The official reason? The newly enacted Northern Sovereignty and Environmental Integrity Act, a sweeping piece of legislation designed, according to Ottawa, to protect its northern territories. Canada cites environmental risks, pointing to the potential damage caused by increased traffic and resource extraction, concerns over carbon emissions, the ever-present threat of hazardous spills, and the already strained infrastructure of the northern routes. The Canadian government insists it's acting in the best interests of its environment and its people. But beneath the surface, a deep well of frustration has been building for years. The US and Canada have repeatedly clashed over the Arctic Northwest Passage, a vital shipping route that's becoming increasingly navigable due to climate change. Canada firmly claims it as internal waters, exercising its sovereignty, while the US staunchly calls it international waters, open to all, a position that challenges Canada's authority in the region. Recent US tariffs imposed on Canadian lumber, a critical sector of the Canadian economy, and aluminum, another key export, have only deepened the existing rift, fueling resentment and a sense of unfair treatment. Canada's border closure is a bold and unprecedented move, a calculated act of economic leverage aimed squarely at forcing the US to the negotiating table to address these long-standing grievances. It's a high-stakes gamble, no doubt, effectively using its geography as a weapon in an escalating trade war. For decades, Canada has largely played the role of the quiet, cooperative partner, often deferring to its powerful neighbor to the south. Now, under the Trudeau government, it's asserting itself on the world stage with a newfound confidence. The Trudeau government clearly believes that the Alaska corridor, a critical artery for the United States, gives them a unique and powerful form of leverage. The world is watching this tense situation unfold, wondering, will this high-stakes gamble ultimately pay off for Canada, or will it backfire spectacularly, damaging relations beyond repair? This is far more than just a matter of environmental policy. It's fundamentally about national sovereignty, a renewed sense of pride, and the projection of power on the international stage. Canada is betting big, placing a significant wager that the U.S. simply can't afford to ignore its demands any longer. The border, once a symbol of peace and cooperation, is now a bargaining chip in a much larger and more complex geopolitical game. The stakes have never been higher, and the world awaits the next move in this tense and critical situation. News of the closure hit the White House fast. President Trump's response? Immediate and explosive. He took to social media, blasting Canada's move as a disgraceful betrayal. At a press conference, he called it an illegal blockade and vowed swift action. Alaska is American. We will not be told how to access our own state. Trump ordered a review of all U.S.-Canada agreements and slapped 100% tariffs on Canadian maple syrup and auto parts. The message: the U.S. will hit back, hard. This is classic Trump. Projecting strength, escalating fast, and leaving little room for compromise. The administration's strategy is clear: maximum pressure, maximum visibility. The U.S. is framing this as a fight for American rights, not a diplomatic dispute. Both leaders are now locked into public positions, making retreat difficult. The stage is set for a direct confrontation. Quiet negotiation is off the table, for now. The world braces for what comes next. The crisis quickly escalates beyond words, spiraling into a situation far more complex and dangerous than anyone initially anticipated. News outlets worldwide are ablaze with coverage, each headline more alarming than the last. The U.S. launches Operation Northern Access, a bold and decisive move designed to circumvent the escalating tensions. This operation signals a clear intent to ensure the well-being of Alaska, regardless of the diplomatic fallout. It's an ambitious undertaking, an air and sea bridge to Alaska, bypassing Canada entirely. This logistical feat requires immense coordination and resources, showcasing the U.S. commitment to its northernmost state. Military transport planes and Navy ships ferry supplies, working around the clock to establish a reliable supply chain. The scale of the operation is truly impressive. This includes vehicles and equipment, everything necessary to sustain Alaska's needs during this critical period. The operation is a massive undertaking requiring precise planning and execution. The show of force is unmistakable, a clear message to all parties involved about the seriousness of the situation. The U.S. will supply Alaska at any cost, demonstrating an unwavering dedication to its citizens and interests in the region. Canada responds with increased air and naval patrols, asserting its sovereignty and closely monitoring the U.S. operation. They are also reinforcing border crossings and monitoring U.S. movements, tightening security measures along the extensive frontier. Tensions rise as both sides play a high-stakes game of chess, each move carefully calculated and fraught with potential consequences. The U.S. reroutes international flights to avoid Canadian airspace, a significant disruption to global air travel patterns. This action hits Canadian revenues, impacting their economy and further fueling the dispute. Canada counters with a global diplomatic campaign, seeking international support and attempting to sway public opinion. They are framing the issue as environmental protection and sovereignty, appealing to shared values and international norms. The once friendly border is now a flashpoint for military and political brinkmanship, a stark reminder of how quickly relationships can deteriorate. Each move triggers a countermove, deepening the standoff and making de-escalation increasingly difficult. The world watches with bated breath as two allies edge closer to open confrontation, a scenario that could have far-reaching consequences. The cost, financial, political, and human, mounts by the day, a grim reminder of the real-world impact of this escalating crisis. The border, once a symbol of trust and cooperation, is now a line of division, a physical manifestation of the growing rift between the two nations. The stakes have never been higher for both nations, as the future of their relationship hangs in the balance. The world holds its breath, hoping for a peaceful resolution before it's too late. Beyond politics, real people are suffering. In Hyder, Alaska, families are cut off from schools, groceries, and medical care in neighboring Stewart, BC. Travelers are stranded. Vacations ruined, students unable to get home, lives upended. Canadians near the border lose jobs and see businesses evaporate overnight. Truckers, motel owners, and entire communities are collateral damage. The psychological toll is growing. Anxiety, resentment, and broken trust on both sides. The open border that once defined daily life is now a wall. Americans feel targeted. Canadians feel both empowered and uneasy. The crisis is severing human connections built over generations. The cost isn't just economic, it's personal, emotional, and lasting. The longer the standoff, the deeper the scars. This is a crisis measured in disrupted lives, not just headlines. The economic fallout is immediate and severe. Alaska's supply chains are in chaos. Store shelves empty, prices soaring. Businesses in Washington and the Pacific Northwest lose vital trade routes. Trucking companies face bankruptcy. Support industries are paralyzed. On the Canadian side, tariffs and lost tourism devastate small towns along the highway. Motels, restaurants, and gas stations sit empty. Many may never recover. The border closure exposes just how deeply the two economies are intertwined. International investors grow wary. The North American market's stability is in question. The crisis is a wake-up call. When diplomacy fails, business pays the price. The damage is swift, widespread, and threatens the economic foundation of entire regions. The border is no longer just a line, it's a barrier to prosperity. Both nations are learning hard lessons about interdependence. The world is watching, and worrying. Allies see the US-Canada feud as a warning sign for Western unity. Adversaries like Russia and China see opportunity, exploiting the rift for their own gain. The dispute tests the limits of sovereignty, trade, and international law. Other nations with border disputes are taking notes. The crisis threatens to paralyze forums like the G7 and NATO, making global cooperation harder. The breakdown between two close allies sends shockwaves far beyond North America. The outcome could set new precedents for how nations handle transit, trade, and environmental disputes. The world is learning. Even the strongest alliances can fracture. The stakes are global, not just regional. How does this end? One path: quiet diplomacy, with a third-party mediator brokering a face-saving compromise. Canada might suspend its environmental act. The US could lift tariffs and agree to talks. Another path: escalation. More sanctions, more restrictions, and a deepening trade war. A third scenario: a costly, uneasy status quo with the air and sea bridge to Alaska becoming permanent. The longer the standoff, the greater the risk of miscalculation, especially with military forces in close proximity. The solution depends on political will and public pressure. Businesses, families, and allies are demanding an end to the crisis. Rebuilding trust will take time and real leadership. The path forward requires negotiation, not retaliation. The future of US-Canada relations hangs in the balance. The Alaska border crisis is a test of one of the world's closest partnerships. Decades of goodwill have been shaken by nationalism and retaliation. The consequences are real. Families separated, businesses ruined, and military standoffs. The crisis exposes just how interconnected the two nations are. Rebuilding trust will be hard, but it's essential. The world is watching to see if these neighbors can mend their friendship. This is a cautionary tale. No alliance is unbreakable. Geography can unite or divide. The US-Canada border has long symbolized peace. Now it's a test of resolve. The outcome will shape the future of North America and global diplomacy. Will this border remain a testament to peace, or become a symbol of a friendship pushed to its breaking point?